Exactly, and I remember always like correcting people's pronunciation. Like, no, it's not Kwong Kwong.
They started way
because you have the black on the back.
Yeah.
Or as black as can be like that sound.
Yeah. We've got some. Anyway.
Nearly there. Hi, welcome. This is the second evening of a reading series called the Imago reading series, with vested interest in the magico-poetic. So I will do a mix of introduction and a little magical invocation for a couple minutes. So I'm truly honored to be hosting Robert Kelly and Tamas Panitz tonight, a venerable pair. We are under the signs, additionally, of the aqueous dragon and of the bean. I will discuss these sigils in a moment. The project of this series is the search for what I've been calling a new eros, which in Toe means a new magic. Composite of what each of our readers has to teach, the long imago of a gathering. If we are to believe Giordano Bruno, that eros is the chain of chains, the causal links between occurrence at the joints of action. These sympathies that house our becoming, how a thing grows and how it becomes another. If you would alter something, you must learn what it desires, the image it holds of what it wants to become. So last time, I think it's the practice to invite shades to watch over the event. So last time we called Empedocles, who famously sets up an eternal cosmic dyad of Eros and Eris, strife and desire as atomic forces. And it is recounted that he ultimately threw himself into a volcano, perhaps testing the edge between the mortal and the immortal. So a new Eros which moves away from the ingrown technicities that breed blight into the land, unspoken engine of our cities and lead us into an infertility, a food on dominance and the dispossessions of freedom. Rather, let us summon this image of certain aqueous dragons on this rainy day, Tiamat and Vritra, unpossessed, and the beans of Pythagoras. So these dragons from the old mythos demonstrate a certain relationship between the waters of the divine and the individual mind. We find in the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian epic of creation, that the first being was Tiamat, a primordial sea dragon and the ocean of old chaotic time. Her son Marduk, a sun deity, puts a wind into her mouth and splits her along her horizon, like a fillet of fish or a clamshell, dividing her so as to hold back her waters, keeping them at bay, separating the sacred out. The backside to this image would be the slaying of Vritra from the old Rig Veda, the enveloper. He is a dragon of drought, slain by the half-fool Indra, and letting the sacred waters back in. Okay, so we have our dragons. Lastly, the beans. The legumes of Pythagoras, which is an image close to Robert. And perhaps an answer to the strife of Empedocles. Is it perhaps the beanstalk that should be the stave to our Hermes staff between these two dragons? Pythagoras sets up as his cosmic image number, but it is different from our own, an indefinite dyad. Between any two, there is an unnamed third, a lost arithmosophy, a wisdom of numbers. It is said that Pythagoras had a taboo about eating beans. He believed they were tiny wombs, and wandering spirits could enter into them and be reborn. If you're confused about this, you can ask him later. He's napping upstairs. That a bean should be a kind of womb of potential meaning, a first letter to a word not yet revealed, written middle out, to think of like Kafka's crows, which circle around the blank of the page. It is reported that Pythagoras was being chased by soldiers, and he came to a field of beans but refused to cross it, and so they killed him. Robert has a nice translation of a fragment of his. Those beans, these bones. So from Robert we have a sort of listening like that. The summoning from those beings. From Tamas we have partially the question of the impermissible. That being trespasses itself into an impossible divine at each moment. Finally, on the question of eating beans. In the Vishnu Purana, we hear that mortals and immortals, the difference between them is that immortals have their nutriment, their eating, interior to their bodies. Mortals have to go and seek it into the world. Let us not forget the Yiddish proverb, so many hymns, so few noodles. Please welcome Tamas.
Thank you, David. If I'm being too quiet or too loud, I hope you'll tell me. A couple things. I have some proof copies of this. Since it's a proof, they are only $4. They're back there. We also have copies of Robert's heart threads, which are 12, and calls, which are 16, and David's bat, which is 20. So you can give money to any of us.
I'll be taking it over here.
I'll read 2 poems from this, from Invisible Marches. Clouds scud the flanks of a secret heat that turns within, draws the curtain, sun draws. On either side, illusion turns to illusion. On either side of the eclipse, the lie at center glows in indirect light. In the freeze of the eclipse that doubles, black brothers build fortresses against dispersion, that a liquidating milk of voices throngs, down reverberant gutters of faces, down hanging gardens. The enduring plant's forked sinuous lightning lashes the mind to blossom. Through sexual elated crowds, the whims of necessity purr, change purposes. The people of the panther do not know who they are. A force shadowless as crystal flows between loves. Across love's body, enduring passages of the heart planted within the eclipse exult. We'd race oiled round mid-heaven, hippodrome, our stupid goals, curves her days hip into heaven. A horse sacrifice is the proper use for a horse, the sporagnos of Bacchus, where desires surge against the law's rigid patience, the lover burns and the half-god is torn apart. Stargrass agrees to hold our weight, our combustion and burning resolution into gold, a mauve horse that halts as touch rages, the color of change. A heart burns throughout the forest, a star, a word, a lover, hand on my shoulder. Before we parted, I can feel still. What came before will come again. A stillness that burns within our skin, a structure, the oils of her mind to which the body bends. Now, we'll read some more recent poems. You can hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
It's getting warm. Okay. Whew. The auger. Now there's a couple lines in this from the first poem in Baudelaire's New Flowers, and the first poem of that is called something like The Midnight Exam. And I like that sense of the exam as an augur being examined by what they see. It's in numbers, but I'm not going to read the numbers. Thin green clovers, clean and sourceless juice. Memories, parthenogenetic, held to my lips. Enough to wet, but not to drink. Prêtre Augustus throbbing at the lyre, with the extra observance of having nothing to say. So this is saying nothing. Lips held to the smooth solar plate above your breasts. A coincidence of shadow in the presence of else. A moist jealousy within the sun. Calm paths of mystery leading to mystery. Desire turns into the house of desire. A conscious limb enters the ring of the planets, the cosmos, the other. Bird in the ring of sky, this trial. Say nothing. Cool, clear water crosses through the stream of sunlight to quiver, realign, wink at me, Jacob's shimmering ladder. Where they cross, I cross my hands, back and forth, sign them clean, as something else is clean as silence. Marble in wait for the God to speak. Birds suspended above the bridge. Le pendu, the man in a cross, in wait for else, in wait for you, not statue but augury. A bird disturbed not into flight but sight, a door, like any river might find bound to simple folk like us, slow. Too slow for trees are those decisions, but the image, side entrance, we can jimmy open, and the narrative flows backwards from what I can count. La pendule is la pendule, sonnant minuit, the clock